Hello and welcome to this cloud technology presentation and how the cloud actually helps to make our lives better. My name is Drew Gullickson and we'll be focusing today on the cloud and the telephone and how the cloud is changing our telephones. First off, we're going to start with problems with the landline phones or to the traditional telephone and how it's inconvenient. Part of its inconvenience is that they are immobile. You cannot take them from one house to the next. Even if you have a cordless phone, they often only work within your home and maybe a little bit into your yard, and that's about it. You can't go two houses down and still expect to be able to make and receive your calls. Numbers are difficult to transfer. Usually involves a number of days of waiting. At least with the traditional telephone companies, having worked for an internet service provider before, we had our own version of VoIP phones. And in some of the markets that we serviced, the the phone provider, the local carrier, would require a 30-day waiting period between disconnecting the phone from their customer and porting it over to a new place. And of course, if you do anything out of order, you're not going to get your number. So kind of a revenge factor for trying to take their number away from them. Another problem is that you have to use specific equipment. The old analog phones, there are many newer technologies with phones. Phones have come a long ways. There's a lot of we'll get into the carriers and such that we'll be working with and the types of phones that we'll be working with. But you're stuck with this old analog system with no chance of upgrading it. Another problem of the traditional telephone is its high cost, partially due to the fact that the local providers are government-sponsored monopolies. They will not allow multiple like DSL type four-wire providers to come into any given city or market, partially because there would be that many extra wires running through the air or through the ground, but still they're government-sponsored monopolies, which really decreases the competition. In order to start up one of these, there's going to be some pretty high startup costs because you have to service everyone in the city. Or if you're simply buying the lines from somebody else, you have to buy all of the lines. You can't get a few subscribers here and then gradually make your way. You've got to do everything all up at front. This gives the traditional telephone companies very little fear of competition, which drives up the day-to-day costs because they can charge pretty much whatever they want, although there are restrictions being that they'll be heavily regulated. Because of the little competition, there's very little reason for them to innovate. I mean, again, they haven't switched the phone system over to a digital system like they could. They just more or less choose not to. They could do a digital and analog at the same time, but then they might lose out a little bit on the internet portion, but they could easily do all of that with modems, convergence, network convergence. They could have upgraded, they just choose not to thus far. Next, if they're going to upgrade, they're going to do it very slowly, and it won't be available in all markets right away. You'll see the change in the traditional telephone versus the VoIP telephone here very soon. Distributed equipment. What I mean by that is that the lines going through throughout the city and such in order to get to your house, those have to be connected to servers. And those servers cannot, say, be in one central location. They have to be in each city. So they have to pay for these servers running all the time, no matter how much information is going through them. Is like they're not going to shut off one server because it's nighttime and there's fewer people calling. The physical lines that these people are connected to need to be active all the time, and so there's a lot of waste that way. Especially for just one service like the phone. Of course, they do have internet as well, but those servers also, as distributed as they are, by distributed I mean each city needs their own. All those servers are running all the time. They can't simply shut them down because there's not enough demand right then. With the distributed equipment as well, they need to have more specialized technicians to take care of those servers, which means even more money spent in operating, maintaining these servers. They have to have people on site in order to verify that the servers are up and running. If something goes wrong, then these individuals are responsible to make sure that it gets up as soon as possible. Again, they own and maintain all of the lines going to and from your house for their service, and they have to have plenty of technicians in order to service those lines, and they have to upgrade those lines fairly regularly in order to keep them operating at peak efficiency. Now, here's where the cloud comes in. Cloud computing VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol. These providers, in contrast, are going to be rather convenient, basically in the fact that there's plenty of ways to be mobile with these services. You may not simply be able to walk two houses down, but say if you're traveling, you can take the equipment with you that you need in order to make a call while you're, say, on a business trip. Also we'll see that in the types of equipment that you can use to connect with. All you need many times is to connect to any internet access. It doesn't matter where that internet access is. It could be at a hotel, a motel, it could be at your home, it could be at a place of work. It will work anywhere. In many cases, you can use a Wi-Fi hotspot, and again, we'll get into that with the equipment that you use to connect with it. And many times, say with the cell phone, you can use cell phone data. You can turn a cell phone into a Wi-Fi hotspot and use that data instead of having to use somebody else's. Now, you can use any equipment that you have. You can buy additional equipment if you want to, and in at least one case you will have to, but things that you already have, like your cell phone, you will be able to use. The traditional telephone, the analog telephone, that one you'll have to buy an extra little piece for in order to make it so that you can connect to the digital connection between that little stick. Usually it's a little stick. Plug it into electricity, plug it into a wire, Ethernet cord, plug it into your router. It gets internet access, makes its connection to the provider's servers, and then you're free to make and receive calls. Sometimes you plug them into your computer, and then there's no additional anything needed besides the analog telephone that you have already. Next, you can use your computer. Many times they have either a website or a program that you can access your phone system with. And so you may not even need to bring anything besides your laptop with you. Also, many times they will have an application for your phone, either iPhone or Android phone, or even possibly a BlackBerry. They have been working very hard in order to innovate and make ways for you to be able to connect to their VoIP services no matter where you are. So even if you have an iPod or a tablet, they have speakers, they have a microphone, there's no reason you can't use their application and make and receive calls on those devices. There's also a low cost that comes with being a cloud providing VoIP service. Partially is, again, in contrast to the local providers, there are significantly lower startup costs. You don't have to own the entire set of lines to everybody in a city. You can service one person in one city, 5 people in another city. You could service the entire city of another city, but you don't have to buy all the equipment that the local providers need to, being that you don't have to supply service to absolutely everybody in a market. They have the freedom to choose who they want. So from a customer standpoint, we have more VoIP companies to choose from because so many more can enter the market quickly and easily. And then they have plenty of reason to innovate and provide you the best service for your dollar. Looks like I already covered that one. All right, so we also have lower equipment costs for the customers, partially because you don't have to buy an equipment that you don't have, but also on the side of the carrier, they only need to run the servers that they need to. They don't have this distributed system where they have to run all of those servers 24/7 just in case somebody wants to pick up the phone. If being with being a cloud provider, they can have scripts set up so that if one server or if all their current working servers reach capacity or near capacity, they can spin up another couple of servers just to get those people taken care of. They can spin them up during peak usage time and then spin them down and only have to pay for the time that the servers are up once the peak time is over. Plus, they can choose any cloud vendor they want. They're not stuck with, say, Amazon or Google services. They could choose Microsoft. There's plenty of other cloud vendors out there who will allow them to use their cloud service. So they have a choice on who they want to be their provider for equipment, and we have a choice on who we want to use for our provider. Capitalism at its finest. We don't need to, we're not stuck with one choice, and if you don't like that one choice, then you're stuck without. Plus, just on the VoIP vendor side of things, they don't have to own or maintain any lines. Now, yes, the consumers do need to pay for their own internet access, but typically you'll already have your own internet access, and so switching to a VoIP provider makes a lot more sense than sticking with your traditional landline provider. So in conclusion, the cloud is definitely revolutionizing our telephones based off lower costs for not only the providers but also the consumers, and of course they pass those savings on to their consumers. You as a consumer can connect from anywhere so long as you have an internet connection, and you can connect with any equipment that you already have. Again, this is Drew Gullickson, and thank you for listening to my cloud technology presentation and how the cloud helps to make our lives better.